Hi, thanks for listening to Season 1 of Stories for Monsters. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You're about to hear a bonus episode, an interview Kyle and I recorded on a Twitch live stream to wrap the season. If you haven't finished Season 1, you should do that now. Major spoilers ahead. Without any further ado, I hope you enjoy.
Three, two, one.
I'm gonna put on some music in the background so that I can have something.
It should be fine as long as it's as long as yours is not coming through the audio. It should be fine.
Nah, it's just Spotify very soft in the background so that I can have something going. I'm used to having like some white noise because like usually while we're recording and doing everything, it's like we're doing our we're doing the Let's Plays, and so I'm used to having something going, like there's the music of the game or of you killing things. But like there's always something, and like right now there's just not, and I'm like, oh I gotta do something about that. I find that happens more and more. So like a lot of times I'll offer to play music while people are recording, and like Dariane is the only one who takes me up on it, but like Dariane will be recording her lines, and I'm looking at, okay, what lines are playing, and just like playing on the piano in the background, and it picks up on the mic and through the Discord call. And so she has a little background music while she's recording that, never sees the light of day, is never recorded, is never anything, but it's produced in the moment.
Okay, I'm gonna take us live in 3, 2, 1, and oh fuck, I don't know which one is that.
The last thing I want to hear is I'm going to take us live 3, 2, 1, oh fuck.
I think I know which one it is. I think it's this one. Yeah, we're live now.
Yay!
Probably. Hi, Fable.
Hi, Kyle.
Look at us. Yeah, we're doing the interview thing.
Can I just say how weird this is?
Sure.
I think the last interview I had was like a job interview. I've never been interviewed about like what I do. So this is a first for me.
So it's kind of funny that this comes back because I haven't interviewed first off, so at all. I mean, I guess I've interviewed again employees at a day job, but that's not the same thing. Let's not even pretend that's the same thing. I've been interviewed for a creative project once at PodCon, like 3 years ago for the project I have just now started releasing. So I do get the awkwardness.
Oh, hey, what's that project called, Kyle? So the listeners
we're not here. We're not here to talk about me yet. Well, I'll plug myself in the later on.
I mean,
but right now we're here to talk about you.
In fairness, I am directing on, so like, I'm okay with talking about it.
Okay, fine. I'm doing a podcast called Anachronistic. We'll talk about it more later.
There you go.
Also, yeah, I'm also going to bring up the fact that we are streaming this interview live on Twitch, and I don't know, we might put it up somewhere later. That's really a question for later. And I would like to thank Shiny Zubats, a friend of your follower of both of our projects, for subscribing. Unfortunately, because I set up this layout up front, it didn't do the big fancy scream when someone donates. So sorry about that.
Shame. For shame.
I'm actually gonna see if I can add that in real quick.
Feel free.
Yeah, okay. So now if someone follows or subs or whatever, that should come up. Thank you for subscribing, Shiny Z-Bands. Anyways, I guess we should go ahead and get started. You have worked very hard to release a very interesting project out onto the interwebs, and we are here to congratulate you and talk about it. Do you have anything you want to say to like introduce yourself to start out, or should I just go into the nitty-gritty questions?
I mean, I guess I can introduce myself. For anyone who doesn't know, I don't know who is tuned in and not. Hi, I'm Fable. I make stories and music and other stuff. And I just finished Stories for Monsters. And that's what we're talking about today.
So Stories for Monsters, well, specifically finished season 1. I don't know, well, okay. I should preface several of these questions. I'm going to say I don't know, but I do know, but I need to ask them because I'm interviewing you anyways. I imagine we're not hearing anything about a season 2 in this particular interview, but
sure
it is important that you've said it's season 1. Yeah, you said it's season 1. It's not necessarily the end. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I just don't want to box
Broken
myself into to anything too soon. That's all. But
oh yeah,
I mean, the
legit.
odds are that there will be a season 2, and I want there to be a season 2. I'm just not gonna say anything until like set in stone kind of time, you know?
Oh, we certainly both know the stress of announcing a project too soon.
Yep. I did that plenty for this.
For starters, how about so for starters, how about you tell me a little bit more about your background? How did you get into this sort of thing?
Like podcasting, writing in general.
Let's start with podcasting, but this is more about you as a creator. Where did you?
Oh, okay.
Where did Little Fable get your start?
Well, let's see. I started creating stuff and writing stuff mostly seriously in high school, like you actually. Bit of a late start, but I mean, it seems to have worked out for us so far, so what the hell, right? I've also always been into music, but with college especially, and when we started playing Pathfinder, I really had a lot of fun just making music for like the characters that we made, and one thing led to another, and I've all of a sudden gotten, you know, up to being professionally able to, like, make sound things, and that just made it the most convenient way to tell my stories. So very much like my style with music, it's just kind of, what I had, in terms of resources.
That makes sense. I also, the question's also somewhat to lead you into your, I mean, like, you've studied writing, you've studied storytelling and music for a long time.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that too.
So my my alma mater, same as Kyle's, for anyone who doesn't know, we met in college, 8 years ago now? 8 years ago?
Certainly. Lion's share of a decade for sure. I feel like it's almost 9.
It's almost 9.
Or more.
I think. it's long enough that we know that this is not ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I actually started at USI as a journalism major, and I didn't like it, so I switched over to English because you can do a lot of the same stuff anyway. And I hopped on the creative writing train as well as rhetoric and literature. Honestly, everything that wasn't teaching, because that's intimidating, and the whole system is difficult.
Oh, I know you probably got the same thing I got when I went in for an English major, which is I have to be able to be like, so you're going to be a teacher, right? And
No.
something about having that like hammered at you over and over makes you really not want to be a teacher. No offense to all the wonderful teachers out there in the audience, of course, you who are saints, and I could never do what you do.
Yeah, I mean, this is we bash plenty, but like this is not teacher bashing. This is purely I think this is more of an us bash than anything.
Honestly, I think that sentence of so you're going to be a teacher, right? Both undervalues teachers and undervalues English majors at the same time. Yeah. No one benefits from that kind of statement.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I don't have a point of contention with that. Thinking about it.
So, since you've sort of graduated ages ago and everything, but tell me what you've been sort of trying to accomplish with your work as an artist since then, both with Stories for Monsters and other projects you've been working on. Like, is there a particular man, I'm trying to think of the word. It's totally escaping me. Like a mission statement. I was trying to think of a funnier word for it, but you know what? Do you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Yeah,
is the interviewer like you're asking good interview questions.
You're basically looking for somewhere between mission statement and artist statement, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you were clear enough. I caught your meaning. I caught your meaning. Yeah. So, if anything, I'd say it actually goes back to why I chose my business name and the name that I choose to release all of my music under, which is Rhetorical Answers. Most people hear the word rhetoric and they think the art of persuasion, and as someone who had to read through so much of it, I disagree. Rhetoric is usually tied with morality and what we should do, how and why. I think literally the only person who I saw that just gave the tools without thinking of the ethics behind it and was not immediately concerned with what should people do with this was Aristotle. But everyone else was very morally concerned. So the way that I define rhetoric as basically something that analyzes how and why people reason logically, socially, and emotionally to kind of build a framework with some context and perspective, and then apply that with empathy. So what I do is to kind of build that contextualized framework, and trying to let people feel things that they might not have otherwise felt. To try and give perspective and hopefully shed some light on the human condition in it, in any way that I can.
Is there a specific Oh, you can tell I have a lot of experience interviewing, and I'm sorry for the undercutting jokes, but I'm nervous too, okay?
You're fine. No one is judging you, Kyle. Literally no one.
Except myself.
Sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. I wanted to sort of, like, reflect on what you were saying there about, like, having the audience feel things, you know, that they, or consider things that they haven't otherwise considered and whatnot. And, like, I've shared my, my own, like, what I feel my responsibility as an artist is with you before, which is honestly, I think it's just an Amanda Palmer quote, really, which is, my job as an artist is to lead you deep into the darkness and deliver you safely to the other side.
I mean, don't undercut that. Amanda Palmer is really a pretty brilliant woman. I mean, she is the first person to be able to crowdfund $1 million. Like, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
Mad
that
respect.
actually leads into a question I was going to say for later. In fact, I will table it for later, because it'll fit later and better. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, Stories for Monsters is a really fascinating project for me, because it covers a very broad spectrum of things, and I don't like emotions in particular, and not in combinations I normally see. Like, I'm used to really horrific stories being undercut, well, not even undercut, that's not the right word, that's too negative, but, like, lessened by comedy. But Stories for Monsters has this, like, fairy tale whimsy about some of the stories, but a lot of them, especially the finale, get straight up horror, frankly. And that's a combination that feels a bit more classical to me. Was that, I mean, like, asking if it was intentional is kind of a bad question, simply because, like,
not.
once it's released, it's intentional.
It's a fine question.
But, well, then, what I mean to say is, tell me what your thoughts are on, I guess, the tone shifts in Stories for Monsters, and, like, how did you balance that?
Well, it's weird, because it actually is more serious than I necessarily thought, or originally thought it was going to be. Going in, I kind of based this in the game that I started with my friends, and there's a lot more humor in that, but if you want to get the messages across, frankly, there's just less time for the humor sometimes. More than anything, I wanted people to be able to seriously absorb whatever was being said. And in order to do that, that means that I'd in most cases actually avoid injecting comedy into something. I mean, comedy isn't usually even in a lot of fairy tales. If we look at classical fairy tales, and mythology, they're usually really dark. Myths and legends and like Grimm's fairy tales, they have a lot of violence and murder and people getting punished pretty severely for stuff. I wanted to take a different approach than that. And sometimes teach smaller, more relevant messages for now. So, for example, a couple of things that you could do for panic attacks, or how you treat a cat that you don't know. But yeah, just I figure if I make a joke of myself, then I'm making it very hard to take any of the lessons seriously. So kind of sticking to form can be valuable.
Mm-hmm. I actually, this is just a passing thought that I would have to do a lot more research on, but I wonder if Shakespeare was kind of the turning point for that injection of humor into dark tales.
I mean, I could definitely see it. I don't know, though.
I'm sure there's plenty of more well-read linguistics who probably have already written research papers on this, so that just might be a fun thing for me to poke in. We talked about the sort of emotional, artistic thing you're trying to accomplish. What about practically? Like when you've got a very diverse skill set, and what was your priorities when making, when doing the craft of your work? And like, what was the most important to you? Because we all know that you've got to prioritize certain things when you are making a project for release. Not everything can be perfect. So like, how did you decide what was going to be most important when making SFM?
The most important thing to me is, one, is it following the form that I want? So is it a fairy tale? Is it more of a legend? Is it more of a myth? And two, does it say anything meaningful or contribute to the story in a mechanical way? So a lot of times I found myself asking, more times than I usually would for any other stories, or things that I've written, what is this thing trying to say? What is it trying to teach people? What is the moral of this story? And again, I don't ask that as often as I did for this. So that was weird. As far as the craft goes, this was a weird one. I moved right before starting recording all this. So I am in this little studio home in the middle of nowhere right now, and it is, although the place is lovely, it is like the literal worst for recording, and it forced me to make some different creative decisions about what sounds mean what and how I actually tied it all together. So although my initial reason for kind of giving voices this lo-fi quality was to kind of mask the environment that I'm in, I managed to kind of spin it around to mean something else, which I'm proud of. That said, when it came to the finale, I actually really, 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 really wanted it to be kind of a cut above in terms of the quality of the recordings, and so I recorded that in our car. I took like all of my sound stuff and unhooked it from my desktop and brought it out and the laptop out, and I set up in the car, and it was jank and awkward because I don't have a small stand for my mic, but I needed to keep it off of my face and not be holding it to keep things consistent. But I went out to the car to record it just to make it a bit better. I find that the more that I work with sound, the more picky that I can get, just because I notice more and more things, and then it's less about, oh, this is going to sound awful, people are going to hate it, and more about, oh, I hate listening to this over and over again while I edit, so I'm just going to not let that mistake repeat itself.
I'm actually reminded of, I was listening to an interview for the Magnus Archives, which I know you haven't listened to yet, but there was one particular thing where they were talking about difficulties they'd had in production during COVID because they formed they despite having lots of actors involved, they produced their finale in the middle of all this nonsense, and talking about how in some cases, a guest would record their audio and send it over, and it's like, well, I guess this scene now takes place in a cave because that's the only way this garbage audio is gonna work.
I mean, yeah. That, exactly.
Speaking of that, though, this is a little bit off script, you had several guest actors, myself included, throughout the season. How was it directing and working with, several very talented people who have absolutely no experience in voice acting? Tell me a little bit about that.
That was fun, actually. I hadn't directed before, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I tend to enjoy when I'm adding kind of new skills to my repertoire anyway, so that was fun. I for those who don't know, I actually practiced quite a bit with you in order to kind of work up my acting chops. And we both did that together. And I had to kind of take that and build on it to be able to communicate with people to get the kind of result that I wanted to get. But yeah, no, it's fun because every actor approaches things differently. Which is just nuts, but it's also part of the fun and the challenge of it. To kind of realize, okay, where on the scale between method and technical does this person lie? What kind of feedback in turn do they actually respond to the best in order for us to get this recorded in as few takes as possible? So it was a process, but I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. I was particularly impressed with your ability to take the same actor and manage to wring multiple characters out of them. Partially, that's a very good skill to have, especially since you're helping me out when starting out. The only voice actor I have for my project is myself, and so you're doing very. Again, I'm not trying to make this about me. This is about your podcast, but I've had more than one person reach out to me about the first episode of Anachronistic and be like, who'd you get to voice Dave? It's like, I don't know what to tell you. Turns out I can just drop my voice and go from my normal voice to someone who, pounds 12 packs every afternoon right at the get-go, thanks to Fable magic.
At this point, I've been doing audio stuff for a while, and so I've played around with trying to make voices sound different. It's fun for me to just see, okay, how far can we push this and still make it sound kind of like a real person.
I remember when we were working on that first episode of Stories for Monsters, where I'm Moran, right? Yeah, or was I talking to Moran?
No, you were Moran.
Okay,
Episode
good. I was like, shit.
4,
I just had the biggest brain fart. No, yes. I'm spacing here, but the first episode with the werecats, and
the first episode with the werecats, that was actually that was just me and I think that was just me and Lauren on that one.
You're right, I'm Dragship Mountains. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Of course you know your work better than I do.
You're fine,
Right,
Kyle.
now I remember. Sipping my water, calming myself the fuck down. So, when you were directing me for that, you were just like, oh, can you imagine if this does get big? And people like, I was like, hey, can you do the Moran voice? And I'm just like, absolutely not. You gave me the amp of a fucking bass guitar. And well, that's not the one you went with, but the bass guitar amp was really cool.
No, but it was fun. I actually did use the guitar amp for another character.
I was gonna ask, was that Val?
Yeah.
Did you use the guitar amp for Val? It sounds so cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. I wanted something like kind of sinister but really badass. And it pulled that off really well.
Yeah. So moving on a bit, we talked a little bit about Amanda Palmer earlier, who I know is a big influence of yours, but I'm just there is a sort of prerequisite interview question of like, who is some of the bigger influences on your work with Stories for Monsters or just in general? I'm not picky.
Honestly, I would say Amanda Palmer influences the way that I think more than my actual work. I kind of take some of her ideas on radical empathy and build that in with like my own definition of rhetoric. The work itself, I would actually say, is more influenced by her husband, Neil Gaiman.
I can see that.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman has this lovely ability and knack for magical realism. Kind of just, and then things were this way, and it just works. And I was like, I want to be able to do that. And so I've worked to be able to kind of use that same tool, and try and make it my own.
Now that you mention it, I can definitely see a little bit of like. So my favorite Neil Gaiman story is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. It's like, but I see some of the energy of that in Stories for Monsters. Just the sort of the way the story is told. I am having trouble putting to words what I mean here. But are you? Point is, I see the influence.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it's visible. It means that I was able to like kind of pay some homage, but also do something that's clearly different.
So, I know we're both early days, but tell me how like monetization has worked for both Stories for Monsters and your other projects in general. I know this is a question we're both still very much figuring out, but like,
poorly. No, oh yeah, no, I'm not really making anything off of SFM yet. I think I mean, technically, so I've been distributing this with Anchor, and they let you put an ad in front of your stuff, and so you get like pennies on the dollar, like per every 1,000 listens or something. It's nuts. No, I think I want to say Anchor is up to like maybe 20 something, maybe less, or that might be the music. Oh gosh, now I'm wondering how much it's at.
Well, you've also been working on a Patreon for a while, and I mean I do too, but
no, Patreon is definitely where I get more actual support, which is why Stories for Monsters up to $3.08. I couldn't help. I had to look. Yeah, no, most of my money is straight up Patreon. I try and say at the end of every episode, you know, I couldn't do this without you. And I list some of the higher tiers. And I mean that. That's really my only kind of source of income off of this. And it's modest. And there aren't a lot of people, but the people that are there care a great deal and are so emotionally involved and supportive. Many of them are friends that I talk to regularly, just every day. So a lot of times when I'm writing a post or addressing people in general, I'm not thinking of myself as addressing a lot of people. I'm really just kind of thinking of a few. Just I'm essentially talking to my friends about something.
Normally I want to for this particular stream, I'm trying to avoid turning to chat too much, but Ironoki did say something that I think is very important, and I would like to reiterate, which is, honestly, multiple dollars is traction. Yeah. However, was it $275 you said?
Pardon?
That what was it, $275 through Anchor?
No, Anchor is $308.
Wow, a whole 300.
No, a whole $3.08.
A whole 308 cents.
I mean, yeah, the whole 308 cents.
I would like to, like, again, I'm not trying to make it about me.
Not about you, Kyle.
I'm very much looking at, like, my own process as being a creator of, like, finding multiple revenue streams. I don't think it's going to be a long time before one project makes me the, like, $2,000 a month I need to fucking live, but
yeah,
100 here, 100 there, $3 there, $5 there, it does start to add up. And so I think that's not something to be discounted.
No, not at all. I try and keep in mind that it's like, it's definitely the minority. Like you brought up, Patreon. Patreon is far and away the majority of what I get. And frankly, I do want it to, you know, I do like that. I like having kind of the names to the faces, and knowing that people are supporting me because they want to support me. It means that I'm not limited by any constraints of platform or medium or anything. It's literally just these people are supporting me because they want to support me and they want to hear what I have to say. So I don't have to bend to anything else.
And you also mentioned them being very close friends, and this is more something, like, I know you know this, but to any other small-time creators who are just starting out who are hearing this, one lesson that was really hard for me to learn, and I think to a degree it was hard for you to learn too in the beginning, is just, like, how much those friends who are supporting you through Patreon, like, really do matter. It takes some psychological power to stop thinking of them, like, to hold the paradox of they are my friends, but they are also my fans, and knowing that counts. That's support that counts. It's not just, they aren't just your friends, they are both. And that's how it starts. And especially as I've grown, very much like the line between friend and fan, even when I make a new fan who, like, was a friend of a friend of a friend I had no real connection to ahead of time, they slowly become my friend just because of like how Patreon allows you to build relationships with people who are like following your work, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I do on Patreon is, I invite people and give people roles on my Discord, and most of the time it's not terribly busy, but I like having the channel open to be able to talk to these people just whenever.
Mm-hmm.
Because frankly, Discord
I think there's
is
something to be said for...
I use to talk to all of my friends regardless anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like completely.
I was just going to say...
Oh, go ahead.
I think there's something to be said for not busy Discords too. Which I know, like, I'm definitely enjoying this period of my Discord where, like, there's conversations going on and I'm not the start of every single one of them. But I know eventually if I continue to grow, it's gonna be same as a lot of Discords I'm a part of that are very impersonal and large and intimidating. So I'm sort of just trying to appreciate the slowness while I can.
Yeah.
So, shifting focus a bit to SFM itself, tell me a little bit about the origins of the story and the project in itself, because I've been a sounding board since the title first came to mind, and it's had some drastic changes since you first came up with it.
I came up with the title way before the concept for this actual iteration. I was kind of just wanting to build a world.
Which is fair, because naming's hard, and if you have a name...
Yeah, no, you want to be able to use it. I came up with the name while I was still working on Late Letters, but Stories for Monsters actually came about, and I've told this story multiple times on Patreon, but I play a regular game with a few friends every week, Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And
tabletop RPG, I am just specifying for
audience,
although it's an online RPG.
Yeah, well, it used to be Pathfinder, and now it's the system that we made ourselves, which is Fable Doom. But I've been GMing this game for a very, very long time. We started this the same year that we met, so it's been going for 8 years, and there was this one night where we're playing, and one of the characters, this small werecat girl, wants to hear a bedtime story. And so I, being the kind of person that I am, come up with a bedtime story about this other werecat princess that hopefully this child can aspire to be as brave and clever as. And that's how we got the story of Princess Pin and the Dragon and the Stars. And I really enjoyed it. And so I wanted to keep writing stories. SFM, although I try and make it so that it's accessible to everyone, frankly, my core audience is still those same 3 people. And just kind of giving them looks into different characters and lore and history. I just get so much joy out of that. But yeah, that's where it started. Just a simple bedtime story that I was like, I want to do more of that, and so it turned into this, because I'm writing the things anyway, so I might as well do a thing with it.
I am always like, it's kind of interesting to see how tabletop role playing in particular has very much like super grown in popularity in recent years, because it's like when I was growing up, D&D was like something I'd heard of, but like I mean, like we both grew up in the Midwest, and the first thing I knew about D&D was the whole like satanic scare of it.
Yeah.
That happened. And now these days it's all over media, and like lots of stories are happening both about tabletop games like D&D and also like inspired by. And it really is a super cool method of collaborative storytelling that like can lead to more things. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. What would you say was the hardest, or the I want to say the hardest part of making it, but like there's challenges with any project. What would you say was the most challenging part of Stories for Monsters?
Oh God. Honestly, that core group knows so much more than the audience does. And trying to balance giving the audience enough info while not tipping my hand too much and spoiling the game for that core.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that was...
I can definitely...
Like, and sometimes, you know, it means that there's a little bit of a balance shift, between, like which one I actually focus on more. Like for the finale,
mm-hmm.
I focused more on the core group.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the performance for Val in the very last episode at the beginning, before the narration, it seems, compared to what I'm usually doing, kind of stiff and robotic. Like he's more of a caricature than a character, and he only loosens up during the narration. And that is actually for a reason. But that's, you know, probably not going to be revealed for a while. But that's just one of the things that I kind of have had to accept, with kind of the way that this is balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just who I'm going to prioritize.
That's an interesting one. How do you feel about the project now that it's done? Season 1, of course.
Oh, it's weird. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't know that it was actually going to get done. It got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to pull the trigger on this, even though not every episode is ready yet, just for the sake of actually getting the thing completed. Which, for the record, I do not endorse. I don't recommend you do that if at all possible. If you can prepare something completely before you pull the trigger on it, please do so. But it was, for me, it was like, okay, I need to do this or the project is going to die. And so I did that. That was hard. So I'm really glad that I was able to actually complete it in the way that I did. At this point, it's very clear, and in the beginning it wasn't, but there's this pattern, there's this braid in 3 parts that we have. It tends to follow the pattern of myth, a boots on the ground story, usually in this season. You know, you've had Finton and Fiametta's story, and then you would have kind of a story giving some insight into the narrator. And I'm so glad that I was actually able to keep that form and play with those braids and play with when what was presented in such a way that, well, I certainly hope was narratively satisfying.
I really liked how it ended on a horror note. Just as a fan, it was really cool.
Well, thank you.
So, what's next for you?
Oh gosh. Well, obviously, I'm working on Anachronistic with you. For anyone who doesn't know or didn't catch the beginning, but I'm doing a lot of other stuff. As per usual, I tend to keep myself very, very, very busy.
Workaholic friends. Fist bump.
Yeah.
Digital fist bump through the
my god.
computer.
No, so at the end, obviously I had a little bit of a plug for Mountain of Time, but that's only one of several things. So I've talked about how this started as a Pathfinder game. And then it evolved into this homebrew that, well, it's not even a homebrew, it's an actual new system called Fable Doom. We wanted to kind of keep all of the magic, but frankly just simplify things, make things run very quickly, especially for combat, and have this focus on the story more than anything, and kind of the skills and characteristics that the player characters would keep and pick up over time and build upon, down to the point where that is literally what we rely on during the death saves. In D&D, you roll your D20, and 10 or lower is a fail, and 11 or higher is a success. And of course, if you crit one way or the other, it's 2 counts for either, and you get 3 successes means you live, 3 failures means you die. I hated the idea of something that important being left to chance. I wanted a way to capture what it means for someone to have stuff to live for, what they're hanging on to, everything that is the accumulation of them. And so we roll like for every skill that someone has attained, stuff like that. But anyway, we made this system, and I'm building these mods for people to play Fable Doom in Atera and actually experience SFM in the same way that I experience SFM. So that is something else that's up.
I'm very excited to see that project continue to grow, and I think there's always a market for new tabletop rule sets, and I think yours has a particular underserved niche, which is people who want to enjoy tabletop games but are rightfully so intimidated by the Byzantine structure they encapsulate.
And
so I think there's
nuts.
I am someone who likes classic. I like the math, and I like the dice rolling, and for some reason it just triggers all the right boxes for me, but like, who boy do I get not wanting
to
deal with
Fable Doom plays a lot like D&D. We made it to be really, really simple. Like, I purposefully kept the rules down to as few pages as possible for the sole purpose of making it kind of really, really easy to learn or teach someone. Just like, okay, I'm going to pull this out of my back pocket at a party and no one's going to have trouble keeping up with it.
Honestly, I'd say that's a virtue of a lot of good, using the broader sense of the word, tabletop games in general. By that I mean like board games, kind of. Like it's always good if a board game has easy to parse rules, so that when people are over, you don't have to spend 3 hours dissecting how to play a game.
Yeah, I wish that Pathfinder would have been better explained to me when I was new, and that there had been more time for my like education on it, and that made things really hard. And that's not the case with Fable Doom. It's made to be intuitive, and
I'm pretty sure.
So yeah.
We were both introduced to D&D by the same, not exactly best teacher, if I am recalling correctly.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
That. But hey,
any other things you want to talk about? Oh,
I was gonna say, well, it's worked out. All things considered. Let's see. I just finished compiling the soundtracks for the season as well. So I'm like, as we speak, I've been working on some art. I've been putting together the album cover for the OST. I actually, so for those who don't know, Kyle made the SFM logo art, which is just
oh yeah,
on all
I did
the
do that, didn't I?
Yeah. You saw that I was panicking and not nearly as okay at art as I am now. And so you made this lovely picture, like this kind of silhouette with Pin and the dragon. And one of the few things that I've noted, but I actually haven't talked to a lot of people about, is that pretty much none of the art, or almost none of the art, of SFM is to scale. Like, it's really fantastical. I mean, the way that dragons are in Etera alone, it's like their legs are as big as buildings. Their feet are as big as buildings, or like mansions or towers, like that big, not like house. So they're huge. And what I kind of wanted to do for this album cover was, I wonder how close to scale I can actually get while still being able to see Pin. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I hope that people like it, and that it kind of sheds some different light on the same adventure that people have heard.
That's cool. So that's it for my questions. My prepared questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the audience Q&A here. If you're listening, of course, feel free to continue typing your questions in chat. I've been picking some up from chat as we went, so I'll go ahead and get started with those. The Abnerdoodle would like to ask who, this is to both of us actually, who our favorite characters to act for were. Because, you obviously did 80% of the cast. I did...
Stories for Monsters is primarily voiced by Fable McDaniel.
Yeah. I see. So that was a way of saying your favorite character to act was the end credits.
Oh no! Oh my god! Oh gosh! End credits were my bane. I screwed them up or forgot them so many times. Oh geez. I mean, honestly, probably the dragons, because they're just super fun. I mean, it's fun to say stuff into a filter, and it come out the other side sounding badass and enormous. I mean, like, I still do a voice for the dragons. I don't just say it like in my normal voice, and it comes out like that. So there is actually some acting involved. But it is so much fun to like, to do that though.
On my end, it's funny because I sort of have the opposite feeling of my favorite was Calcifer, who is the most human character I voiced, and
he's not even human.
Oh, I suppose I meant our interpretation of that.
No, I know what you meant. I was just
and because I sort of, especially as when you gave me that role, I was very much ramping up for Anachronistic, and it was an excuse for me to really show off everything I had learned practicing for that. And it was fun to sort of try and express myself as someone other than myself. And I was very glad that he was a reoccurring character too.
Yeah. Calcifer is actually an original character as well. So Calcifer didn't show up in the game. Calcifer was new to like that core group of players. So I thought it was really cool to have someone like that.
Part of me is like, ooh, man, if I ever get a chance to guest star in a game in that world, maybe I should try and play Calcifer. That might actually be super fun. So I'm going to modify or like give my own twist on that question. Who is your favorite character to write?
To write? Oh
yeah.
Wow. Huh. My favorite to write. You know, so the narrator who has of course been actually named by the end of the story, Heartwind, didn't have a ton of development in the game, and so he got a lot of development here. So I actually had a lot of fun giving him kind of a voice and a more solidified past, and making him seem normal. You know, like just a person and kind of just as subject to circumstances of this world as everyone else.
It was very fun as a listener to see the juxtaposition of Heartwind to Val, and specifically, like, maybe this is dropped earlier and I just didn't catch up on it, but it didn't occur to me that they were really the same kind of deity, but as we sort of learn in that finale, they've been through the same thing.
Yeah.
At least in the beginning there. And yet they are very different people. Val is so fucking frightening.
I'm glad that frightening.
Whereas Heartwind...
it was weird. Because, you know, he's...
And Heartwind...
The only thing that we really get to know is one, what happened with him and Crystal. We can theorize. I don't think many people have posted their theories just yet in my channel, so I am curious as to what people think. But we hear the intro to 12, and we hear his voice and kind of his story, and that's kind of it. We have a very, very limited pool from which to kind of get knowledge about Val. There's
one other thing I was going to say. Right. I I kind of like the sort of non-traditional family aspect you've got going on there, where Hartwin very much seems like much more of a father to the girl the stories are being read to than Val does. Val seems very, I mean, for lack of a better term, inhuman. And, you know, at the same time, not totally devoid of affection. And I don't know, I found Val very fascinating. Funny enough, like, I'm not a part of the game that Fable has mentioned that spawned the idea for this. But I am friends with everyone in it, and I've heard, like, you know, bits and pieces over the years just by virtue of being close to it. And Val was one of the few names I recognized. So it was very, very cool to see that character fully brought to life and kind of be able to sense what he was really about beyond just the hushed whispers of people as they get out of their weekly D&D game.
Yeah, you actually... That's right. You actually haven't gotten to really experience him.
Yeah, no, I know there's something about pancakes.
Oh,
but that's
not Val. But yeah, no, there's...
Oh, that's not?
There's definitely some stuff about pancakes concerning our game.
At any rate, I thought that was really cool. But also, it's good to hear that, like, you were able to fully explore a new character, or not a new character, but a lesser explored character in the narrator, and that was cool.
Yeah. I had so much fun with that.
So next question. The next few are from Shiny Zubats. First off, if you were to start season 1 over knowing everything you do now, is there anything you would do differently?
Anything I would do differently? Is there anything I would do differently? You know,
It's okay for the answer to be no.
Yeah, I'm thinking about actually if there is. Yeah, I don't know that there actually is anything that I would do very differently. I mean, I don't think there's anything that I would change, except for like the way that I produced it. I would try and get ahead of the curve more. But like beyond the production aspect of it, no, not really. Like I like the way that I made the stories.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, like, when it comes to especially like projects of pure narrative, which is sort of what we've got here, any little change you make early on sort of like changes what the whole thing becomes, and you're proud of the whole that it's become. Production issues are a different question, because ultimately, like, production issues, well, yeah, say an episode getting delayed might be frustrating to a listener. Trust me, it's way more frustrating to the creator. It doesn't feel good. So
it is the actual worst.
It's pretty bad. Let's see. I guess next question, also from Shiny Zubats. Did the pandemic affect your writing recording process, either positively or negatively?
Actually, strangely enough, I had a lot of other crap happening with the pandemic, and I went through a couple of different jobs outside of this, and more than anything, I actually had time to kind of come back to what I was doing with this. So it kind of gave me an excuse to be home and create stuff.
I definitely I've been in a similar boat. It's one of those, like, pandemic actually worked out really well for me because I was saving up to do full-time creator shit, but I hadn't gone in on anything yet. If I had gone in before pandemic hit, I'd be fucked right now. But because I was still in the prep phase, it actually meant there's sort of room for me to come out.
Yeah,
and do things.
I got really lucky. I mean, the pandemic didn't hit as much with SFM, but I did, I got a lot of music produced right at the top of it, actually, more than anything.
You did.
Oh gosh, I want to say, oh wow, I've produced like closer to 50 songs now, and a lot of that was just because I had the time to with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people had a lot of trouble with that, and it caused some problems. I mean, it's harder to get anything done, and it affects Lauren more than it does me. But all told, kind of the lifestyle that I had was already a lot of times at home, and so it was just kind of, oh, what I'm doing is normal now. Concerning like D&D, I've seen so much comedic stuff on YouTube about, oh, how hard it is to like run a game online instead. Oh my gosh, you're just dealing with all these technological issues, and I'm just like, psh, get on my level. I have been doing this for years. I have no sympathy for you.
I will say, playing online versus playing in person are very different feels. Because I've been part of both types of games, and I don't really prefer one to the other. But I can see if you're used to one and the other, it suddenly becomes your only option.
No, it's a completely different animal. I do get it, but I found it amusing, you know.
It's one thing when people are like complaining that they have to do it this way when that's sort of been your only option.
Yep.
Shiny Zubats also has a couple of questions about Fable Doom.
First
off, how did you choose the name Fable Doom?
The actress for Maud and Jules and Crystal, who is referred to as Saberfly. You know who Saberfly is. I
know who Saberfly is.
I gave Saberfly the nickname Doomsday while we were in college, and that's how we got Fable Doom. We literally combined my actual name with her nickname, so Fable Doom, because it was catchy.
Yeah,
and it kind of plays with what I do with SFM. You know, I write fables for a living. I do my namesake.
And there is a tad of Doom in those fables.
Yeah.
You can't see, but I'm doing finger guns at the camera. And also, would you say Fable Doom is built for more of an online experience?
No, actually. At this point, I've run it both live and online, and it works just as well. Like, at this point, I prefer Fable Doom very heavily to any other TTRPG that I played. I'm proud of what I've made because it fits. I'm very happy with it. If I am given the choice to play another TTRPG system or Fable Doom, I'm gonna choose Fable Doom like every time. I am that confident in what I have made.
That is good to hear. Oh,
I mean, I could just
up.
well, I mean, I was gonna say I could literally explain rules. It's like I said, I made it to be simple, you know. So I like that.
Yeah. So we're about gonna wrap up here. I have one question from myself, which is, what was your favorite episode? Now that the whole first season.
Oh boy, oh gosh. You know, So I have favorites for different things. Favorite music is either episode 4, the Dragship Mountains, or the last episode, because I have been waiting so long to be able to pull out those songs in reverse. So music-wise, those two. While I was doing episode 4, I learned that I don't have to be strictly tonal and linear or like keep as much time with the music. I'm accompanying something. I can just, as long as my fingers are moving in the correct direction, it actually works out really well. Story-wise, oh gosh. Honestly, I think it has to still go to Princess Pin, the Dragon and the Stars, just because I have so much sentimental value for it, and it kind of kicks it off and it just encapsulates so much of what I was aiming for in about as clean a way as I possibly could. That, and I love looking back at this fairy tale and looking at darker stories like 6 and 12, and seeing how far it's come, and being reminded of that. So yeah, like music 4, story 1.
Legit. For my part, I keep going back to Baby Powder Plot for biased reasons. Both, I think it was my favorite performance of mine, and also, we didn't really get to talk about this, but the art snafu that happened because entirely my fault. I'm gonna have fond memories about that for a while. I guess the audience. Fable has unique art for each episode, and Z does most of them herself. But I helped out here and there, and one of the times I helped out, Fable gave me a prompt. In my defense, I'm pretty sure it was like very early and I was half asleep, but I definitely didn't remember it. I read the script because I had to do voices for it, and then I just made a completely different drawing than what Z asked for. So I ended up just doing 2 drawings.
Though. I loved it.
I am proud of both of them, though.
No, you did well. No, I asked for a character portrait, and you gave me a full landscape and everything.
Which is funny because I'm landscapes are harder for me. I put myself through double work for the wrong prompt.
Yep. Here I was trying to make it easy and fun for you, and you just noped out of that.
So, to wrap things up, how about you tell the audience where they can find your stuff and how they can support you?
Okay, yeah, you can find my stuff. Well, first of all, Stories for Monsters is wherever you get your podcasts. Personally, I think the best ways to look at it, though, are YouTube, because you get the art, or Patreon, because a A lot of times you get stuff early and you get to read what I have to say about the episode, because usually I reflect on them when I release them. But yeah, there's that. If you want to know more about me and my stuff in general, you can check out rhetoricalanSwers.net. And if you want to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/answers.
I posted a link to the Patreon in particular on the Twitch chat, so...
Thank you.
Yeah. In my case, I mean, everyone here knows me probably. I'm Kyle. I'm doing a podcast called Anachronistic, which Fable's the sound person for. And I make Anachronistic, Fable makes it good. So that's kind of how I would describe the relationship.
Kyle. It wouldn't be the same without the writing.
Fair. At any rate, you can find me at patreon.com/knewbridge, on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/knewbridge, YouTube/knewbridge. I'm like knewbridge wherever.
Pretty much everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, wherever.
Set yourself up pretty well with
artists
that.
Are sold. At any rate, I think that's it for today. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a raid. I think we're gonna raid Codesoul Cass, who's playing Destiny 2, primarily because I think Codesoul would have been here if he could have. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Fable, for agreeing to be interviewed by me, and congratulations.
Thank you for having me
on everything. Yeah,
and thanks for being part of it.
Of course. Getting the raid started. This is where I'm like, oh, but should I do my Patreon sign off because?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
yeah, I guess I should. Thank you to my patrons, particularly Chocolate Bliss, Saberfly, Abdoodle, Tia, did I already say Plothold C? Plothold C, and now you, Fable. So thank you. Yeah, no, that's all of them. I think. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'm gonna go ahead and start the raid now.
Late.
Still waiting. Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long. Like, I don't know which people stay for the raid and which people go. You said a sign off, and so I'm like, oh, I should say the thing.
Oh yeah, no, you did good. You did good. I want to say son, but I don't know how that works with the non-binary thing.
It doesn't. So you were correct to hold off. I've just been working on the the art this entire time. I've been trying to get these flats down before I do anything. So I assume we're not live anymore, is that correct?
We are not live anymore.
Okay, then I should probably hit the record button and stop that.
Oh yeah, I should too.